Hello, FantasyDaddy.com viewers. I'm Bowe Fertig once again with James Boyer, and we're going to be talking second baseman today. The second half has just gotten underway, but we're talking about a first half stud who flew onto the scene, and that is third-year second baseman Jason Kipnis.
Jason Kipnis has been flying onto the scene. Last year he kind of showed a little bit of what he can do. This season he's batting .301, 13 homers, 57 ribbies, as well as 21 stolen bases. He's the exact standard rotisserie guy that you're looking for. His OBP right now is .383, which is probably unsustainable, but I look for him to be around .340, .350 on OBP. The one concern I do have with Kipnis, though, is that first half last season he batted .277 with 11 homers and 20 stolen bases, but in the second half of last season, he was only batted .233 with 3 homers, and he had the same amount of bats that he did in the first half and the second half. So that's something to be taken into consideration. I would probably sell high on Kipnis, but then again, I still consider him a top 5 second baseman.
Sun Devil alum, one of 7 second basemen to hit over 300, one of 3 second basemen to have 50 RBIs, 50 runs, and one of 3 second basemen to hit over 300 with double-digit home runs. He leads, or is actually tied with all second basemen, 21 stolen bases with Jose Altuve. So this is a guy that definitely had a great first half, and it's going to be hard to sustain coming onto the scene in the second half. 2 other guys, though, as well, top 5 second basemen who have surprised a lot of people. That is Howie Kendrick and none other than Matt Carpenter.
Yeah, Howie Kendrick's having a career year this year. He's batting over 300. He has, I think, 11 homers right now. He's on pace to possibly get that 2020, something that he's never done in his career. And of course, Matt Carpenter in the National League, he's leading the NL with 72 runs. A couple little tidbits about these guys. Carpenter's a better hitter hitting at home, and so is Kendrick. So taking that into consideration, Carpenter's another guy too. He hits better. Kendrick. He hits better with no guys on. He's actually batting .340 right now with no guys on, and batting under 300 with runners in scoring position. So take that into consideration a little bit. Not to mention, going back to Carpenter. Carpenter is one of the best hitters in the National League. This is a great stat right here that I was checking out. In 0-2 counts, Matt Carpenter is batting .318. That shows you how good of a hitter he is. Even behind the count, he can still rip.
Hitting in the 320s, I believe it's 323 right now. Carpenter leads the NL in runs because the St. Louis Cardinal team has the best team batting average with runners in scoring position, and that's because you have guys like Carlos Beltran, Matt Holliday, Alan Craig, who we mentioned a lot in the first half edition of First Baseman. Howie Kendrick, more hits than Robinson Cano in the first half. That's a stat to remember. We'll see how that pans out in a second. But talking about guys like Cano, Dustin Pedroia, Brandon Phillips, these guys are still the top second two-baggers, I guess you can say, in the American League, in all of baseball. But a lot of it, with Pedroia and Cano, take a lot of the American League status. When you're talking about runs, home runs, RBIs, and average, out of those top 5 guys, Matt Carpenter, Kendrick, and the 3 I just mentioned, who do you see providing the most production in the second half?
As far as runs go, if he could stay healthy, Matt Carpenter's continued to just score runs. Like you mentioned earlier, St. Louis Cardinals, one of the best lineups, the best lineup in the National League. As far as homers go, you got to go Robinson Cano. He's got that 30 home run power potential. He's got 21 right now, so I could see him ending somewhere in the 35 range in the season. That would be a career high for him. As far as RBI second baseman, you got to go Brandon Phillips. He hits behind all those guys in Great American Ballpark. He's one of the more likable guys in Major League Baseball as well.
Right. I couldn't agree more. Brandon Phillips leads all second basemen with 74 RBIs. Cano, career high 21 home runs in the first half. Matt Carpenter, you mentioned, high profile offense. Will lead in runs. Cano in home runs with a career high in 21 in the first half. Average, give me Dustin Pedroia. Pedroia is hitting in the 330s right now in front of guys like David Ortiz, Mike Napoli, and he has run production in front of him with guys like Jacoby Ellsbury, hitting a very hot lineup, probably the best lineup, first in runs, second in average, first in slugging percentage, and second in OBP as a team. So Dustin Pedroia is a hot hitter hitting in a very hot lineup right now. So any of those top 5 guys really can do it in any way. And runs, we mentioned Carpenter, home runs, Cano, RBIs, give it to Brandon Phillips, and average I go, but Dustin Pedroia. And you look at some, actually, Delmar Fair.
Pick your pony.
That is time for Pick Your Pony. We have 3 groups of players. The first group, Matt Carpenter or Howie Kendrick. Who would you take in the second half?
Oh wow, that's a toughie. I'm taking Matt Carpenter. Again, we got to look at that lineup, and don't get me wrong, Howie Kendrick is probably in one of the better AL lineups too. But just because where Carpenter bats, his production is to be that much more in runs. Like I mentioned earlier, he hits well behind counts, well over 300. Howie Kendrick, I think he's gonna kind of fall off a little bit. He can get to the 2020 season, but I highly doubt that, so I go Matt Carpenter in that sense.
Matt Carpenter hits leadoff in a National League batting order. So because of that, I don't see a lot of the RBIs. Kendrick's going to get him in RBIs. They're about the same with power. They'll both hit around double digits, around 10 or 12 in the second half. I give the runs to Carpenter. Pop about the same. Howie Kendrick is hitting in the 4-5 spot for Los Angeles right now, for the Angels. So if he continues that, I see him providing big numbers in the second half. Second group is Brandon Phillips or an ailing Chase Utley.
Very interesting, very interesting. I think Brandon Phillips, and I would say this is just due to the lineup, and especially the ballpark. Great American Ballpark is a hitter's park. I think Brandon Phillips is going to continue to hit RBIs. I think he'll probably have more RBIs this season than he has had any season ever.
Yeah, he's on career for best.
Yeah. And Chase Utley, you always got to take into consideration the fact that he does get hurt. You know what I mean? At any time he can go on the DL, and I don't doubt the guy's numbers at all, but health is a concern for me.
Yeah, including this season, he hasn't played a complete season in the last 3 as well. So 4 straight seasons, and he was on the DL in the first half. So now it's 4 straight season that he hasn't played a complete season, which has definitely diminished his numbers overall. And the last pair of players we have is Ian Kinsler or Ben Zobrist.
Very, very interesting. You know what I go right here? I go Ian Kinsler. And the fact of the matter is, this guy has had 2 30-30 seasons, one in 2009, one in 2011, and he's one of 13 players ever to have multiple 30-30 seasons. Some of those other guys in that lineup include like Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, Ryan Braun, guys like that. So I go Kinsler or Zobrist. Zobrist is he's kind of a frustrating fantasy player to own. He's not really no consistency. Really, he's kind of batting 260. He has shown that can have off years. So yeah, I definitely go Kinsler there.
Talking about 30-30, who is the only other 30-30 second baseman to do it multiple times?
You got me stumped there, bro.
Alfonso Soriano.
Ah.
He actually did it a couple times. He did it 40-40 with the Nationals, did it a couple times with the Yanks as well.
Oh, wow.
And now the Cubs are stuck with him and that multi-billion-dollar contract that they're sucking on right now.
But he's producing. The guy's producing. Really, he's having a real good year. He's starting to come on after, let's focus on the second baseman.